Today, before we close a long day, I invite you to join me in trying a different thought. Could it be that the breathing rhythm of the universe and the human heartbeat, two coexisting cycles, have been quietly conversing with each other through all the years we've lived without our ever noticing? In the next few minutes, we will gently walk through some scientific truths about heart rate, the day-night cycle, the rhythm of the sun, and sleep, told in a slow, soothing voice, just enough to lull you into a more restful, secure sleep. No mysticism, no strain, only fragments of understanding that help us look back at our bodies with greater respect and tenderness. If you find these moments meaningful, please subscribe to the Smart Sleep channel to accompany us each night. When you lie down at the end of a long day, in your familiar room, maybe a quiet corner of a house in Texas, a small apartment in New York, or a peaceful home in the suburbs, there are two rhythms still quietly at work that we so easily forget. One rhythm lies right inside your chest, the heart, still steadily contracting and relaxing, never complaining, never demanding a break, from the day you first cried at birth until this very moment. The other is outside your window, the earth turning once every 24 hours, bringing light and darkness in turn, arranging day and night, providing the backdrop for every living creature to find its place. From the moment you were born, you have lived with these two rhythms, perfectly aligned, intimately bound together, even though for most of your life you rarely pause to see. You are not just living on Earth. You are living inside a very steady piece of music between your heartbeat and the planet's rotation. On that very first day, your heart beat fast, small, urgent, as if learning how to keep up with the world. Then through the years, each stumble, each shock, each breakup, every joy, every time you stood up again, it has stayed there, adjusting, adapting, pumping blood to nourish every cell. Meanwhile, the Earth has kept spinning at an unchanging speed, not needing us to believe or not believe in it. Still bringing dawn, still gathering dusk. Try to be still for a moment, simply listening to your own soft heartbeat, and imagine that out there, the horizon is moving, the light is slowly withdrawing, and the night is arriving not as an ending, but as a completely natural part of the cycle. Science calls this the biological rhythm, the circadian rhythm, an inner clock programmed to synchronize with day and night. Awakening hormones like cortisol typically rise in the morning. Melatonin rises when evening falls. Blood pressure, body temperature, heart rate all change along with that cycle. At 45, 60, or 80, this clock is still working, even if it is sometimes disrupted by insomnia, worries, late-night news, appointments, with anxieties about health or your children's future. But behind it all, the principle remains very gentle. Our bodies are born to live in harmony with the Earth's rotation, not in opposition to it. When you were young, you may have been proud of staying up late many nights, using coffee instead of sleep, working across time zones, as if you yourself could outrun all limits. But now, after having lived through tens of thousands of sunrises and sunsets, perhaps you feel more clearly the cost of going out of sync, waking with a heavy head, a heart beating a little faster than usual, slower legs, memory tripping, emotions more fragile. This is not a sign of weakness nor a failure. It is simply a very clear reminder from your heart. I have accompanied you through so many rotations. Now let me beat in a wiser way. If we are willing to look directly at this truth, not with fear, but with respect, well, see something interesting. Each of our days is not just one more day gone by, but a complete revolution in the shared design between the universe and the body. Morning, Earth Earth turns its face toward the sun, our bodies switch on alertness. The heart works harder. Midday, energy rises. Afternoon, the biological pace begins to slow, inviting us to tie up what is urgent. Night, darkness falls, and this is when the heart is allowed to beat more slowly, the nervous system to break, the body to move into repair, cleaning, and recovery mode. This harmony is not accidental. It is the result of millions of years of evolution. The human body, especially a body that has passed midlife, is no longer suited to a cycle-defying lifestyle that is always lit up, always tense, always demanding peak performance. It is suited to a rhythm with order, with respect, with rest in the right places. And the precious thing is, no matter where you are between 45 and 90, the heart is still capable of responding when you reset your way of living. Notice how, on those days when you eat more lightly, walk slowly in the morning light, switch off your screens earlier, take a few deep breaths before bed. Somehow, that night, your heart beats more gently, your sleep is deeper, and you wake up with less heaviness in your chest, less fatigue. That is not magic. It is simply the two cycles, the breath of the universe through day and night, and the heartbeat in your chest finally shaking hands properly. For most of life, we are used to seeing the heart as something that has to endure our choices, enduring rushed meals, too much alcohol, repressed anger, money worries, nights lying awake because of others. We rarely consider that we might treat the heart more kindly, simply by living closer to our true rhythm. But if tonight, instead of blaming your body for slowing down, you try seeing it as a loyal old friend that has carried you through tens of thousands of Earth's rotations, you may find yourself wanting to say something different. Thank you. And from here on, let's go more gently. Science does not ask us to become someone else. It simply shows us humans are born with a heart rate that is not too fast, with a sleep-wake cycle built around light, with a body that knows how to heal itself if given enough time and space. You do not need to race the young, do not need to win every competition that no longer belongs to you. What you truly have is a wealth of experience, a mind rich with memories, people you still have beside you, and the chance to live the rest of your life at a slower but deeper rhythm. And that begins with recognizing every evening, when the earth turns half its face into shadow, it is an invitation for your heart to soften too. Try imagining each day as a gift wrapped fully within 24 hours. Morning opens it and you fill it with work, responsibilities, calls, decisions. Afternoon, you add conversations, smiles, things left unfinished. By evening, as the wrapping is about to be folded, the small question is, in what state do I want to fold it? In haste, irritation, and a flood of headlines making your heart race, or in a few moments of stillness where you recognize that your heart is still working for you, and the earth is still spinning without needing you to worry. Instead of seeing the moment before sleep as an empty, meaningless gap, you can see it as a point of connection between those two cycles. It might be as simple as a small ritual, switching off screens 5 or 10 minutes earlier, placing your hand on your chest to feel your heartbeat, recalling one small thing from today that you're grateful for, quietly telling yourself, today was enough, letting your breath slow just a little. When you do that, you are not just sleeping for better health. You are sending your nervous system a very clear message. You choose to live aligned with natural rhythm instead of endlessly pushing against it. If you repeat this every night, your heart will learn that it no longer needs to stay in constant alarm. Between 45 and 90, this is not a beauty trick or a productivity hack. It is a way of treating your own life kindly. What few people tell you is, you are allowed to renegotiate your pace. No matter how chaotic, sleep-deprived, or stressed your past has been, you have gone through enough rotations to know that no one gives medals to the first one to collapse from exhaustion. But the body always records. The heart remembers. Every time you treat it harshly, it's recorded in your vessel walls, in your blood pressure, in those sleepless nights. And every time you grant it a proper night, sleeping in a quieter space, after a few deep breaths, with a gentle thought toward yourself, it records that too. It beats more smoothly, more steadily, quietly extending the number of mornings you can wake up without feeling like only a worn-out shadow of yourself. So when we ask, if I understand that I am living within these two synchronized rhythms, would I treat each day differently? The answer doesn't need to be a revolution. It can simply be one small decision tonight. To respect the 24-hour rotation by letting your body rest when it's dark. To respect your heart by not forcing it to carry unnecessary worries into bed. To respect yourself by acknowledging that the years ahead deserve to be lived at a more peaceful pace. Slowing down is not falling behind. Slowing down is choosing to walk in step with a wiser heart, with an earth that has been with you since the very beginning. And perhaps, from that tiny realization, each evening will no longer be a tired ending, but a gentle promise between you, your heart, and the sky, still slowly turning outside. So, if our hearts have softly aligned with the Earth's rotation, the next natural question is, what happens to the body and brain when we ignore the breath of the universe, day and night? And from 45, 60, 75 onwards, do we still have the luxury of living out of rhythm with it? When we say the universe breathes through day and night, that is not just a pretty image to help you sleep. For humans, especially bodies that are fully grown, that have gone through so many upheavals, the light-dark cycle is the core signal the brain uses to organize the entire system. When to be awake, when to rest, when to repair cells, when to clean up memory waste, when to let stress hormones subside, when to allow the heart and vessels to relax. Hidden deep within the brain is a small nucleus called the central biological clock, which receives information from natural light and then sends commands to hormones, temperature, heart rate, blood pressure. Daylight lifts us up. Evening darkness switches on the get ready for sleep mode. Melatonin rises like a biochemical blanket. Cortisol drops. Blood pressure eases. The heart is allowed to slow. An entire complex biological orchestra depends on a very simple rhythm: light and dark. In recent years, research on sleep and circadian rhythms has confirmed what earlier generations vaguely sensed. Living in tune with day and night is not just a healthy habit. It is a safety foundation for brain and heart, especially in older adults. Chronic disruption of the light-dark cycle is linked to higher risks of high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, weakened immunity, and mood disorders. Studies also show that age-related changes in circadian rhythm make older adults more vulnerable when they stay up late, sleep late, or are exposed to strong light at night. PMC plus 3, PMC plus 3, PMC plus 3. You may have felt this directly in your own body without reading a single paper. On nights when you stay up late watching the news, worrying about your children, reading just a few more work emails, or clinging to a glowing screen. The next morning, your heart beats faster. Your head feels a bit light. Your blood sugar, blood pressure, and mood all seem a bit off. Conversely, on those rare evenings when you turn off the lights early, lie quietly in soft darkness, rest your eyes from screens, speak a few gentle words to yourself. You wake up to a world that hasn't changed, but your inner world is lighter. That is precisely when the universe's breath and your inner biology briefly fall back into sync. You might be used to thinking, staying up a bit later is no big deal, I've done it all my life. In your 20s, your body could compensate. The internal clock was pushed, but the cardiovascular, hormonal, and nervous systems were still flexible. But at 50, 60, 70, this system can't compensate endlessly. Melatonin production is lower, sleep is more fragile, the internal clock is more sensitive to disruption. If you force yourself to stay up 1, 2, 3 extra hours every night, you are making your brain and heart work against the light-dark signals outside, like forcing an old conductor to constantly change tempo mid-piece. PMC plus 2, PMC plus 2. Imagine the universe breathing very evenly. Daytime as the inhale light, activity, connection, thinking, solving, and nighttime as the exhale darkness, lowered stimulation, cell repair, closing the days, stories. When you cram more tasks, more noise, more bright white light into that exhale, you are essentially trapping in your mental lungs countless dust particles that never get exhaled. Especially for someone past midlife, every time you push yourself to stay up late in tension, you subject your body to a double pressure. Outside, the universe is signaling time to cool down. Inside, you are ordering stay on high alert. Over time, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-flight system, becomes used to being switched on continuously, hard to turn off. The parasympathetic system, the rest-digest system, no longer fully owns the night as it should. Heart rate cannot drop as deeply as before. Blood pressure doesn't relax enough. Blood sugar is less stable, and sleep becomes a negotiation instead of a gift. PMC plus 3, PMC plus 3, PMC plus 3. But this is not a story of blame. I'm not saying this so you feel guilty about the years you stayed up late. I'm saying it because there is a very gentle truth you can start living at any age. Your body still has the capacity to resynchronize with the universe's breath of day and night if you give it a few clearer signals. You don't have to become someone who sleeps 9 hours perfectly every night, nor return to rigid textbook discipline. You only need to slow down and be a bit more delicate with the moments before sleep. You may be listening to this after a tiring day. Unpleasant news. Health not what it used to be. A sense of lagging behind the world. Try, at least tonight, to give yourself permission to come home with the universe's night rhythm when it's already dark outside, instead of switching on another harsh bright light straight into your eyes. Dim it a little when your mind starts looping through the usual worries. Simply notice it, not fight it. Just recognize that this is no longer decision hour. This is letting go hour. The brain is very intelligent, but also very naive. It believes what you repeat each night. If every night is bad news, unanswered emails, old memories replayed in self-judgment, it will treat those as priority content, continuing to push them into your dreams, your midnight awakenings. If each night, even briefly, you give it a different signal, a slow voice, softer light, a long exhale, a gentle sentence, like today is enough, the brain will gradually learn that darkness is safe territory, a time for repair, not a battlefield. This may seem small, but for those between 45 and 90, it is a much deeper form of self-care than simply adding one more supplement, because you are returning to the original setting. Day for facing, night for nurturing. When we ask, if we keep staying up late, prolonging stress, are we trying to live against our own base rhythm? The answer from both science and lived experience is almost certainly yes. Being out of base rhythm is not a charming sign of rebellion. It's more like constantly forcing a fine old clock to be twisted the wrong way. It still runs, but less and less accurately, more likely to break in some small gear. None of us wants the rest of our life to depend entirely on a clock bent out of shape by habits we can, in fact, adjust. Of course, there are nights we have to stay awake to care for someone ill, to be on duty at a hospital, to handle family crises, to face grief. Real life, especially for those who've lived through much, never lines up perfectly with ideals. But between those necessary nights, there are many nights we stay up solely because we're used to treating ourselves like a machine. One more episode, one more scroll through the news, one more round of recycled worries that bring no solution. Those non-essential nights are your golden chances to turn gently back toward the universe's natural breath. Tonight, instead of asking, how much longer can I push myself? You might try a different question. If the universe is signaling that it's time to rest, can I trust that signal? The answer isn't always fall asleep immediately, but perhaps dim the lights, sit a little while in quiet, listen to a slow voice, feel that the darkness is not as frightening as you once thought. That is how you return to your body and brain their right to hear the bass rhythm. And from here, the lesson in self-development appears softly but clearly. Living in tune with day and night is not just a health habit. It's a quiet declaration of how you treat yourself. At 45, 60, 90, you no longer need to prove to anyone that you can stay up later, do more, endure better. What the world truly needs from you now is a clearer, kinder, deeper version of you. And that version only appears when there are nights of sleep in the right rhythm. Each evening you choose to turn down the noise, adjust your breathing, and let your body sink into darkness at the right time. Is an evening you cast a vote for the kind of person you want to be in your remaining years. Not strong because you strain, but steady because you know you belong to a greater rhythm of the universe. And who knows, when you close your eyes tonight in this quiet, you may feel something strange, yet familiar, that you were never out of rhythm at all. You only needed to slow down a little for the universe's breath and your own to find each other again. When we soften ourselves into the rhythm of day and night, a small question arises. Is a slower heartbeat at this age something to fear? Or is it a sign that the body has matured, learned to conserve energy, no longer needing to race like in your 20s? And if it is a gift, are we gentle enough with ourselves to receive it? Inside your chest, through all these decades, your heart has not only been beating to keep you alive, it has slowly been learning to use energy more delicately. When you were young, your heartbeat was like a brand new engine. Quick to rev, impulsive, overreacting to every stimulus, a text message, a deadline, an argument, a late night outing was enough to send it pounding like a drum. A young body can handle those bursts, though it still pays a hidden price. But at 45, 60, 70, the inner system is no longer luxurious enough to waste like that. If your resting heart rate is not too fast, not climbing for no reason, not chasing in panic after every little thing, that often isn't a sign of weakness. it's a form of biological maturity. The body knows when to speed up, when to keep an easy rhythm, when to let go. At night, in an ideal world, your heart is allowed to be slower than by day. That's when the parasympathetic nervous system speaks up, like a friend placing a hand on your shoulder, saying, "Enough now, rest." Heart rate drops, blood pressure eases, the body glides into deep sleep cycles where tissues are repaired, memory is organized, and the day's tensions are handled backstage. A slowing heart at night is not decline. It is the condition for your heart to be strong enough to work again tomorrow. Yet many of us carry a primal fear. Anything that slows down automatically means old, weak, losing control. We're used to being praised for being youthful, quick, dynamic, and rarely taught that steady, regular, economical is a very respectable kind of biological intelligence. Some people see their nighttime heart rate slower than before and panic as if disaster is coming. Others deliberately cling to the schedule of their 20s, working late, responding instantly to everything, drinking more coffee to push past sleepiness, treating exhaustion as normal, all while the heart is quietly offering another contract. We've been together long enough. Let me beat a bit slower, and I will try to stay with you for more years. Of course, if your heart rate is extremely slow, with dizziness or shortness of breath, that needs a doctor. Science always reminds us to distinguish safety from negligence. But here we're talking about what most of you listening now are experiencing. A resting heart rate that is not too fast, tending to be calmer and slower than in the sprinting years of your life. A heart that knows how to slow down when your brain, eyes, muscles, bones are more tired, when your experience is richer. That is not betrayal, that is alignment. Try listening to your body kindly. During the day, you may still feel your heart speed up when needed, climbing stairs, worrying about test results, feeling moved by your grandchild's laughter. But if it then returns to a stable rhythm, not staying in alarm too long, that is the sign of a recovery system still working. At night, if you allow yourself to turn down the noise, limit harsh light, drop unnecessary arguments, your heart will receive the message. You may slow down. In the context of your life, that slowing is beautiful. Think of how many times your heart has strained to keep you upright through hospital shifts, night drives in storms, long work days, caring for children, parents, finances. Now that some of those battles are behind you, if it slows and you still force it to live as before, that is what's unfair. We live in a culture that glorifies busy as a medal. Even in retirement, many feel guilty if they are not constantly doing, not checking news, not responding to every request. The heart slowly learns another lesson, but the mind blocks it. Push, hurry, as before. This tug of war is what exhausts us. So what if we reverse it? Learn to see a slower heart rate as an invitation to live smart slow. Smart, slow is not giving up, not ignoring health. On the contrary, it is the stance of someone who understands their resources are not infinite and wants to use what remains with care. Smart slow is choosing to walk at a pace that lets you reach the end with the least damage possible. Smart slow is going to bed a bit earlier, not because you're weak, but because you respect your own biological cycle. Smart slow is no longer diving into pointless online fights, no longer holding onto old resentments that only make your heart race for nothing. Smart slow is letting your heart work like a seasoned engine, burning cleaner fuel, wasting less, shaking less. Imagine an old car that has run hundreds of thousands of miles. If you force it to floor the accelerator on every road, it will break quickly. A wise owner drives at a moderate speed, changes the oil on time, avoids potholes, listens to the engine. Your heart deserves that treatment, and unlike a car, it cannot be replaced entirely. It has been with you from the first second. Granting it the right to slow down is not surrender, it is loyalty. Perhaps as you hear this, something in you protests. But I still have so much to do, so many responsibilities, so much to worry about. True, but notice how many of those are felt obligations, not true non-negotiables. We follow the news late into the night, but the world keeps turning if we turn off the TV 30 minutes earlier. We write one more email at midnight, but decisions are often better after real sleep. We keep replaying old stories, stretching our heart over memories that cannot be changed. Those things are like revving an engine in high gear while the car is standing still. Smart slow at this age is daring to ask directly, what still deserves my heart to speed up, and what has reached the point where it's time to let my heart live in a calmer zone? Science offers a striking image. A healthy heart doesn't need to be very fast. It needs to be flexible and able to return to rest. The more someone knows how to rest at the right time, the less their heart must slam on the emergency brake. Regular sleep, quiet evenings, pauses for deep breaths before reacting. These are fitness training for the mature cardiovascular system. And this, interestingly, suits those who've lived many years. You have the experience to tell real urgency from noise. You have the right to choose. You don't have to answer immediately. You don't have to watch everything. You don't have to pretend to be as before. When your heart slows, if your mind agrees to slow with it, the two will finally stand on the same side. And here, the self-development lesson becomes clear but never loud. At 45-90, maturity is no longer measured by plaques on the wall. It's measured by how you converse with the real limits of your body. A truly mature person is not the one who denies aging, but the one who turns age into selective wisdom. Your slowing, orderly heartbeat is a kind of language. It says, choose more carefully where you place your energy. What is worth worrying about? Worth rejoicing over? Worth getting angry about? It invites you to shift from living to prove, to living to preserve and to share. When you accept this smart, slow rhythm, you're not only caring for your heart, you're sending a quiet but powerful message to those around you. There is another way to live besides rushing. You're teaching your children and grandchildren that growing old doesn't mean going dark. It means transforming the flame into something more sustainable. You give your partner a greater sense of safety when they see you no longer self-torture with endless late nights. You give yourself the chance to wake with a bit of ease instead of feeling dragged. And tonight, lying still, listening to these words, this may be the right time to try a new agreement with your heart. You can place your hand on your chest, feel its current beat slower, gentler, or sometimes a bit rushed, but still there, and whisper a simple sentence. From this part of life on, I will not force you to live like you're 20 anymore. Well, choose smart, slow. No need for grand declarations. Just a few small things. Turn off blue light earlier. Don't drag arguments into bed. Allow yourself not to answer every demand at night. Choose soothing sounds instead of startling news. That is how you re-sign your contract with a system that has matured, using less brute force, living more deeply. And as you drift into sleep, notice, somewhere in that silence, your slower heartbeat is no longer something frightening, but the softest background music, the whisper of a long-traveled life. learning to walk the remaining steps with all the wisdom, gentleness, and self-respect it deserves. If in the previous part we've just whispered to the heart that it has the right to beat more slowly in a wise way, then the next question becomes clear. Alongside that rhythm, how is the brain the quiet manager of all emotions, memories, and decisions running its nightly cycles? And how do we treat those cycles? The sleep you're about to enter tonight, whether in a quiet suburban house, a small city apartment, or a room in a nursing home, is not just a stretch of darkness to get through the night. It is a journey divided into rounds of roughly 90 minutes, in which the brain and body take turns doing different tasks, quietly and precisely. In the early stages of each cycle is light sleep, eyelids heavy, breathing more even, body temperature gradually dropping, like sitting down in a familiar chair and leaning back. Then comes deep sleep, where brain waves slow, no longer firing in the rapid bursts of daytime. This is when the body repairs tissues, the immune system strengthens, the heart and blood pressure are regulated. After that, sleep shifts into another world, the dreaming stage, where the brain replays memories, tries to piece experiences together, reorganizes emotions like a librarian working late in the memory library. Each 90-minute cycle is a sweep, clearing biological waste, untangling emotional knots, reviewing lessons for long-term memory. For someone who has lived many decades, these sweeps are all the more precious, because the archive in your mind is thick, and what you've lived through is often heavier, more complex than a young soul's. When we let these cycles run to completion, the brain can sort which story was just a small annoyance to set down, which is a memory to keep, which face is worth remembering, which fear is outdated and should be shelved deep. Conversely, if we constantly interrupt waking many times because of screens, sudden lights, notifications, worries we feed right at the hour the brain needs, quiet we're telling the system, don't empty the bin yet. Just pile it up. Night after night, emotional trash remains. Misunderstandings, anxiety-inducing headlines, unspoken anger, worries about health, money, children, all of it lingers, suspended between waking and sleep, neither integrated as clear lessons nor fully released. In the morning, we wake with a heavy head, a slightly tense heart, a fragile mood without knowing why. But I did sleep. In truth, we only lay in the dark. We did not travel fully through our needed 90-minute loops. From 45 to 90, the body tends to sleep lighter, wake more easily. The internal clock is sensitive to noise, light, and feelings. That makes respecting these cycles even more important. Not to worship a rigid number, but to understand. If every night you only doze in fragments, if each time you're about to drop into deep sleep you're yanked awake, those cleaning cycles are cut short, and tomorrow's brain must work at a desk messier than yesterday's. Short-term memories don't transition neatly into long-term storage. Small tasks slip your mind, while negative emotions cling longer because they haven't been processed through deep sleep and dreaming. You may have noticed waking after a broken night feeling irritated with everything. The coffee isn't right. A normal remark from a loved one sounds like criticism. Traffic noise seems louder. That is not because you've become grumpy with age, but because your emotional circuitry hasn't been reset. Fragmented sleep triggers overactivity in emotional brain regions, while the areas that support rational calm are underfueled. Conversely, after those rare, fuller nights, you find yourself more generous with others. Small mistakes, less harsh with yourself, and your heart quieter. Again, this is not mystical. It is simple physiology. The system just got its maintenance. Now imagine each 90-minute cycle as a night train. It needs enough time to go from the station of wakefulness, through drowsiness, into deep sleep, then to the dreaming zone where emotions rehearse safely, and then back toward lighter sleep near morning. You bored, sit quietly, but every few minutes someone shakes you, flips on the light, brings breaking news, reminds you of old problems. The train turns back before reaching any true destination. You still travel, but in the kind of half journey that helps no one. We do this to our own brains more than we realize. Checking phones as soon as we lie down, lighting up screens in the middle of the night, clinging to online arguments, or replaying old stories at exactly the time the brain needs calm to descend into deep sleep. For a younger body, sometimes it can bounce back, but for a brain holding 50, 60, 70 years of memories, these incomplete night trains start leaving marks. You find yourself forgetting recent things while old sorrows sharpen. You react more intensely to small triggers. You lose trust in your body, with too few people telling you that the issue is not only age, but also that your system hasn't been granted the conditions to do the wise work it was designed for. Here, slow, deep breathing at night appears as a very gentle key. When you lie down, place your hand on your abdomen, inhale slowly through your nose, let your belly rise a little, then exhale longer than your inhale. Your body receives a message. There is no predator, no alarm. It is safe to switch into rest mode. These slow, even breaths activate the part of the nervous system that helps the heart slow down, blood pressure ease, and muscles release. That is the ticket, inviting you to step onto the first 90-minute train of the night, with a higher chance for your brain to complete a full loop. No complicated techniques, no tense counting, just a few minutes of honesty with your body. Tonight, I allow myself to sleep like someone who deserves to rest. You are not required to change your entire life schedule in a single day, but you can choose not to deliberately break those cycles for things that are not truly important. On one side, endless news, bright screens, the habit of scrolling just to finish one more video. On the other, the chance for your experienced brain to work quietly, to preserve what is beautiful and filter out what is heavy. The very small question is, tonight, which side are you on? Many people your age have spent a lifetime living for others, for children, grandchildren, the company, the community. That is beautiful. But if it stretches all the way to the very last minutes of every day, leaving no room for the brain to rest, then the people you love also end up receiving a version of you that is more tired, more tense, more easily hurt. On the other hand, if you protect those 90-minute cycles the way you'd protect a grandchild's sleep, you are giving yourself a kind gift, and also giving your family an older person who is clearer, more stable, easier to talk to. Try picturing this scene. You get into bed, the room dimmed, your phone placed out of reach, the noise outside slowly fading. You take a slow breath, let your chest expand, then exhale as if releasing part of the day's burden. You allow thoughts to come, but do not cling to them like watching clouds drift across the night sky. That is when the first train leaves the station. In those 90 minutes, you don't need to do anything. Don't need to make any big decisions. You only need not to suddenly yank the brake for things that are not urgent. If you happen to wake in the middle of the night, as so many older adults do, you can use that same deep breathing to gently invite yourself onto the next train, instead of flooding the carriage with screen light and news. Set a gentle rule. In the middle of the night, I don't solve problems. I only solve my breathing. Many questions will have clearer answers in the morning, after the brain has completed a few more cleaning rounds. What few people tell you is this: sleep is not only a biological reflex, it is also a mature life skill. Between 45 and 90, you have enough experience to turn that skill into a kind of wisdom, knowing when to let the brain rest, when to stop the inner debate, when to choose silence over endless argument. Every time you protect a full 90-minute cycle, you are training yourself in the habit of respecting limits, respecting the subtle operating rhythm of your body. And from there, a very quiet but deep self-development lesson appears. The rest of life is not measured only by how many years, but by the quality of your clear days and your peaceful nights. If each evening you treat the time before sleep as a control room where you set the direction for the 90-minute trains, you will feel less as though age is dragging you along, and more like you are still in charge of the one thing that matters most: how you treat your own mind. Instead of lamenting, "My memory is getting so bad," you ask, "Are my nights giving my brain a real chance to remember properly?" Instead of blaming yourself, "The older I get, the more difficult I become," you ask, "Am I sleeping inside a pile of emotional trash that hasn't been cleared?" These questions are not for self-accusation, but to open up a new choice. Tonight, try living more gently with your own system. And perhaps, when you close your eyes after these words, with your breath just a bit slower and steadier, you will find it easier to trust that inside this skull, your brain is still working for you in its quiet cycles. Your job is not to control every dream, but to guard the borders so the night trains can run in peace. That is the most beautiful cooperation between mature will and wise biology, between the you who has lived so much and the body still trying to walk with you a long way further. If these 90-minute cycles are the night trains that help the brain clear and mend, then the next question almost demands to be asked: who is holding the remote control that lets the train depart smoothly? Are we completely powerless? Or is there one very small action we keep forgetting? That remote control, as many patient studies have shown, does not lie in smart devices, nor in the last sleeping pill we reluctantly swallow, but in the most familiar thing we have, our own breathing. Especially those slow, steady, deep breaths in the few minutes before we fall asleep. It sounds too simple, so simple many people shrug. It's just breathing, but precisely because it is so familiar, we rarely give it the respect it deserves. Try lying still and picture the many years of your life, from your younger days under the harsh sun of central Vietnam or in some cold industrial city, to these present days, perhaps in a small suburban home in America, TV, remote in hand. The road outside already quiet. Through all those phases, your breath has always been there, never demanding attention. But tonight, let's shine a gentle light on it. When you inhale deeply through your nose, slowly, letting the air sink lower, your chest and belly expand, then exhale longer than you inhaled. Your body immediately sends a signal to the nervous system. There is no immediate danger. Weapons can lower. It is okay to rest. This is when the parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for rest, digestion, repair, is clearly switched on. The heart softens, blood vessels ease, the brain understands it can prepare to enter deep sleep cycles. That kind of breathing is not a mystical trick. It is a real biological dial. Our bodies are designed to respond to breathing patterns. Fast, shallow, urgent breaths are the ancient signals of flight or fight. Slow, deep, deliberate breaths are something that only appears when a human feels safe enough not to be defending against everything. At 45, 60, or 80, after a lifetime of too often having to run on the inside from worries, you probably know very well what it feels like to live years in an alert mode. Years of overtime, years of worrying for children, paying off debts, paperwork, illnesses of loved ones. Your body has learned the reflex, always ready to tense. The problem is, once circumstances change, that reflex doesn't shut off by itself. Each night, even when the outside is safer, there's still a tiny switch inside, keeping the nervous system on guard. Slow breathing is how you, as the adult finally growing up with yourself, reach over and dim that switch. No one can do it for you. No screen, no news, no glass of alcohol, no pill can truly replace that moment when you say to yourself, "Enough. Now I breathe for me." When you begin a series of 3, 4, 5 slow, even breaths, you are sending your heart a message, very different from its usual orders. No longer prepare, 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 but rest, safe, let go. The heart responds by slowing. The brain responds by easing the flood of warning signals. Muscles stop gripping. The gut loosens. But look at the other side. What if, every night, we send the heart and brain the opposite message? What if, instead of a few minutes of deep breathing, we choose dozens of minutes scrolling through breaking news, harsh arguments, images that trigger comparison, obsessions about health, aging, injustices we have suffered? What if, every night right before sleep, we replay the words that hurt us, the old failures we treat as if they happened yesterday? To the brain, that is a clear directive. The world is not safe. To the nervous system, it is a legitimate reason to maintain defense mode. And to the heart, it is an order to keep carrying everything in silence. Then the heart is not only pumping blood, it is carrying an entire storehouse of unnamed worry. Its beat cannot soften if, right before, we pour over the body a rainstorm of stimuli. Blue light, scrolling text, rapidly cut videos, rewound memories. It beats faster, deeper than necessary, even when we are already lying in the dark. In a single night, maybe nothing obvious happens, but if this repeats for hundreds, thousands of nights, it is recorded. The vessel walls record, blood pressure records. The next morning's mood records, those sudden sighs in the day, those random spikes of irritation, those little memory slips, those chaotic dreams. Many of them are just the body's language saying, "Last night, we were not convinced we were safe." The strange thing is, the older we get, the more we need safety, but also the more material we have for worry. Children, health, retirement, test results, back pain, memories of friends who are gone. We cannot reasonably demand ourselves don't worry. That is absurd, but we can choose how we approach sleep. Either cling to the stream of worry right up to the last second, forcing the heart to maintain alarm mode into bed, or acknowledge the worry is there, then use slow breathing to place it on a temporary shelf, promising ourselves we'll revisit it with a clearer head tomorrow. For example, you are lying in your familiar room, lights off, maybe seeing a slice of the California, Texas, New York night sky, or wherever you live through the window. Inside, the clock ticks softly. You feel your age in your joints, in your heart, in your thoughts about a future that is no longer as long as before. In that deeply human moment, slow breathing is not some elaborate yoga technique. It is a gesture of telling yourself, I am still here. Right now I am safe. I allow my body to rest. Inhale gently, silently, count to 3 or 4 without forcing. Exhale 1 beat longer, as if breathing out a piece of the long day. Repeat. No need to empty your mind. No need to meditate well. Just let your breath become a slow, steady bass rhythm. For a nervous system that has spent so many years running, those few minutes are an invitation to reset the relationship. You are saying to yourself, from here on, I won't fight you, I'll support you. If you do it regularly, your body will begin to follow a new track. Each evening, as the breath slows, the brain naturally learns to reduce stimulation. The heart prepares to slow. The 90-minute cycles of sleep have a chance to unfold more fully. You are using the remote control kindly. But if each night you keep sending tension signals, what can the heart do? It is forced to strain in your place, bit by bit. Resting rhythm never truly rests. The biological barrier between daytime stress and nighttime recovery erodes. Some people start feeling sudden, strong heartbeats, difficulty sleeping, jumpiness, or waking in the night with a sense of breathlessness. Part of it may be medical and should be checked, but there is also a very common part. The body has forgotten what safety feels like. We have accidentally taught the heart, even in the dark, we must not relax. So, where is the self-development lesson in those seemingly tiny minutes of slow breathing? It lies in this: whether we dare treat ourselves the way we would treat someone we love. If it were your grandchild, you would not force them before sleep to watch violent scenes, to replay every mistake of the day, to carry all the world's bad news. You would dim the lights, lower your voice, say, "Sleep, we'll handle it tomorrow." So why, with yourself, someone who has given so much for decades, are you so strict that you won't allow even those few gentle minutes? Slow breathing before sleep, then, is not just a trick to sleep deeper. It is a silent ritual affirming your worth at this stage of life. It says, I no longer need to run like I did at 20. I choose to remain in this body at a pace it can bear, in exchange for clearer years, fewer resentments. It is how we move from living by reflex, pulled by news, fear, speed, to living by choice, choosing slow breath, choosing good sleep, choosing to give heart and brain a real night. And as you lie there, trying 3, 5, 7 slow breaths, there may still be scraps of worry in your mind. That's okay. Don't fight them. Let them drift across the backdrop of a different kind of breath. That is your entire job tonight. The rest, leave to the night cycles, to the biological intelligence that has walked with you all your life. If tomorrow you wake feeling just a little lighter than today, then these few minutes tonight have already been a good beginning. One last question, before we let the thoughts soften. If a simple action free of cost, requiring no special skill, can give your heart and brain a better chance to recover each night, what reason do we have to refuse? Or is it, deep down, that we've grown used to believing we don't deserve such gentleness? If the rest of our life is the result of very small choices repeated every night, then tonight, which version of yourself will you cast your vote for? The one who keeps loading the heart with what cannot be controlled, or the one who learns to slow down, breathe deeper, and believe they deserve to sleep in a sense of safety? After all they've been through, if just now we spoke of a few slow breaths changing the quality of a night, then now let's widen the lens a little. The sun also has its own rhythm, those quiet 11-year cycles rising and falling. If a lifetime carries us across many such cycles, is there a new way of seeing ourselves that lets us live more sustainably with who we are? The sun, as many of us imagined in childhood, was simply a ball of fire rising and setting, the same every day. But science offers a subtler picture. The sun does not just shine evenly, it has active phases with many sunspots, flares, coronal mass ejections, then calmer phases like a cosmic heart with cycles. On average, every 11 years, from quiet to stormy and back to quiet, the loop continues, influencing the Earth's magnetic field, radiation, auroras, and the quality of certain space communications and upper atmosphere conditions. These changes don't switch our days on and off, but they are enough to remind us even the greatest source of light is not on full blast forever. It breathes, it rises, it falls. A human life, if fortunate 70, 80 years or a bit more, means we pass through 6 or 7 such solar cycles. Try stepping back and not seeing your life as single days being dragged along, but as one long curve on the timeline. There were solar maximum phases, working non-stop, raising children, building a career, paying debts, city noise, everything bright and rushed. Then there are declining or quieter phases, retirement, moving out of the city, health forcing you to slow down, more time for reflection and inner housekeeping. From the universe's point of view, that is not decline, it is law. No system is safe if it is always at maximum. The sun offers a beautiful lesson. It is precisely those up and down cycles that allow the system to remain stable in the long term. Years of intensifying, then years of softening to balance, so its fields do not tear everything around it apart. Space weather science is not there to frighten us, but to remind us. Every form of power, including light, is wiser when it runs by rhythm, not permanent peak. If we bring that metaphor back to our own body and mind at 45, 60, 80, the question becomes soft but straight. Are we treating our life as a long curve with phases, or as a straight line that must somehow hold the maximum of youth forever? For decades, you may have lived like a small sun for your family, up first, to bed last, illuminating everything, shielding storms for your loved ones. You survived economic crises, illness, migration, starting over with almost nothing. No wonder your body is used to always on. But now, listening to these words at night somewhere in America, with so many turns already behind you, perhaps it's time to see. No sun is required to stay at its brightest point forever. Its endurance lies in its cycle. Sustainable behavior with body and mind begins with daring to admit you've passed several big cycles, and the upcoming years need a different strategy from the early ones. If in your maximum cycle you could stay up late for projects, take extra work, bear more pressure, then in later cycles, wisdom lies in selection, selecting what to keep, what to release, which relationships still nourish you, which remain only as exhausting habit, which information deserves space, instead of letting every late-night bad headline flow straight into your heart. Seeing life as a long curve helps us understand that not every phase is a time to blaze. Some phases are not about how much more can I do, but how much depth and peace can I preserve. When we keep forcing ourselves to live as if in maximum phase, while the body needs balance, we are doing what even the sun does not, demanding the system run against natural law. The consequences don't always come immediately. For quite a while, things may still seem fine, and we may even be proud. I'm still strong, still up late, still taking on more. Then one day, something snaps at the weakest point. Heart, vessels, memory, sleep. On the other hand, if we accept that life's big cycles require adjustments, well, start making choices that last. We stop using health as if it were infinite. We stop treating sleep as disposable. We stop letting every external demand jump to first priority. We begin to ask, if I want to complete one more 11-year cycle with quality, what must I change starting tonight? Sustainable living with body and mind does not mean shutting yourself away from life. It's like adjusting the brightness, still shining, but not burning. At 60, 70, what you offer others that is most precious is not the number of hours you stay up for them, but your clear presence, your memory intact enough to tell stories, your heart soft enough to listen. To have those, you must grant your system real lower activity phases, deliberate rest, adequate nights, days not crammed edge to edge with obligations just to avoid emptiness. Look back at each 10-11-year chapter, the early career years, the years raising small children, the years of grinding to pay off debt, the years caring for aging parents, the years of relocation, resettlement. Each had peaks. In some cycles, you burned more fuel than your body would have liked. That already happened. Tonight is not for blaming the person you were. We are here to gently ask, for the next cycle 5, 10, 15 years, if we have them, what do we want it to look like? A string of days fading out, short of breath, or a stretch that, though slower, is full, with room for things you never had time to savor, a carefully read book, an unhurried meal, an unhurried conversation, a night's sleep not torn apart. You may say, it's not that simple. There's illness, bills, grandchildren, true. But the sun's cycle reminds us of one detail. Even with constant external changes, the central system chooses to rise and fall by its own rhythm, not in panic at every gust of solar wind. Applied to our lives, sustainable does not mean controlling everything. It means choosing a few core principles. Protect sleep as you'd protect capital. Treat your heart as a long-term asset. Do not let news, arguments, fear colonize the last space of your day. At 45-90, you have one advantage the young do not, but the long curve view. You've seen events that felt like the end of the world eventually pass. You've seen worries that once kept you awake turn out not worth the health they cost. You've seen how fragile the body is that one stroke, one fall can transform the entire remaining chapter. If you gather that knowledge, it speaks clearly. Living sustainably with body and mind is not selfish. It is responsibility to yourself and to those who love you. When we see life as a long curve, each 11-year block as a phrase of rhythm, we can change what we call success. Success is no longer staying exactly like I was at 30, but still being myself, but kinder, clearer, less bitter. Success is no longer how much more I can accumulate, but how little I lose of what truly matters. And what matters most at this stage is usually not money, but memory. The ability to walk on your own, the sound of your laughter when a grandchild calls, your eyes still recognizing those you love. Tonight, in this gentle darkness, as you listen to these words like a bedtime story, this may be the right time to sign a new agreement with yourself. From this cycle onward, you will treat your body as a system that has worked faithfully for decades, deserving optimization for the long road not exhaustion for short bursts. This can begin with very small acts, not carrying one more resentment into bed, stopping the bad news at a fixed evening hour, taking a few slow breaths, going to sleep a bit earlier on nights without real obligations, speaking kindly to yourself instead of only reciting your faults. The sun's 11-year rhythm reminds us that every intelligent system needs active phases and resting phases. A human life of 70-80 years is only a few notes in that grand symphony, but within that short space, you have the right to choose how you play your part. Will you keep living like a roaring flame, demanding to burn brightest until it cuts off suddenly? Or will you allow yourself to become a steadier source, warm enough, not harming yourself or those around you with exhaustion? When you close your eyes after this story, that question does not need a spoken answer. It will be answered by the tiny choices repeated in the nights to come. And perhaps, somewhere in the slow turning of the earth, in the long rise and fall of the sun, you will feel something simple and reassuring. You do not have to defeat time. You only need to harmonize with it wisely enough that the rest of your life is not swept away in haste, but lived as a long, full curve, true and tender to this body-mind of yours. If we've just looked at life in long cycles like the sun's 11-year rhythm, now let's zoom in closer, down to each beat in your chest. Does a healthy heart really have to beat perfectly regular, like a metronome on a piano? Or are those tiny fluctuations, those little offbeats, actually the signs of a system more flexible and peaceful than we think? You're lying there now, perhaps in a quiet room after a long day. If you listen with your hand on your chest, or with a heart monitor a doctor once gave you, you'll see your pulse is not 70. 70. 70. Like a machine. In reality, it's 68, 72, 69, 73. Slightly faster when you inhale, slower when you exhale, shifting gently when you turn over, when you think of someone you love, when you suddenly remember an old story. That ordered chaos is what science calls heart rate variability, HRV. It sounds technical, but its meaning is very human. A healthy heart is one that listens to the world inside and outside, then adjusts its beat delicately, instead of rigidly. A high HRV, simply put, means the intervals between beats fluctuate flexibly, showing that your nervous system, especially its gentle brake, the parasympathetic branch, is still functioning well. It can slow when there is no need for tension, speed up when needed, then return to calm. Low HRV monotonous intervals. Little change often appears when the body has lived too long in alert mode. Stress, anxiety, insomnia, chronic illness. In other words, the heart has lost many of its soft grace notes, holding only a tense monotone. The interesting part, the quiet night, is when HRV can recover. When you sleep deeply, breathe evenly, let your mind detach from the day's noise. The parasympathetic system takes the lead, like an artist retuning the strings after a long performance. Inflammation decreases, blood pressure eases, the heart is allowed to play again those smooth variations that mark a resilient system. Those nights are when the heart practices and remembers peaceful rhythm. But what if you go to bed tense as a drawn bow? Be honest. How many times have you gotten into bed with your mind spinning like a ceiling fan replaying conversations? Bad news, test results, old mistakes, your children's problems that, realistically, you cannot solve at that hour. How many nights is the last thing you see? A glaring screen where people argue, compare, frighten each other with dark predictions. In those moments, Even though your body is lying down, the sympathetic system, the fight-flight branch, has no reason to turn off. It hears nothing but danger signals. It tells the heart, stay in battle mode. It's not safe yet. Your heart, obedient as ever, listens. It beats more steadily than needed, with fewer soft fluctuations, maintaining a watchful rhythm through the night. HRV drops. Sleep may still last 6 or 7 hours on the clock, but its quality is different. Less deep sleep, easier to startle, more chaotic dreams, more fatigue in the morning. Without any explicit order, you are quietly training your heart into war rhythm. Always ready, always tense, a little less flexible than yesterday. War rhythm has its place in short bursts, emergencies, caregiving crises, storms, surgery, major paperwork. But when that rhythm becomes default, the cost is no longer small. It's not just numbers on a monitor. It shows up in how hard it is to forgive others, how hard it is to relax on a quiet afternoon, how hard it is to believe you're allowed to rest. It shows in random irritation, darker interpretations, memory slips on simple tasks. A heart that lives forever in war rhythm sends the brain one message: this world is not safe. Don't relax. And the brain believes it. Peaceful rhythm is different. Peaceful rhythm is not the rhythm of someone apathetic, ignoring everything. It's the pattern of a heart that can still accelerate when truly needed. Lifting a grandchild, going to an appointment, handling real urgencies, but knows how to return to calm once the wave passes. It is the heart of someone who has lived through many storms, but does not let every painful memory be a reason for permanent tension. Biologically, it is a heart with decent HRV, intervals that ebb and flow with breath, posture, emotion, not locked into a single alarm pattern. The beautiful part is this: every night before sleep, whether you realize it or not, you are teaching your heart which rhythm to learn. If you flood the last minutes of the day with frightening news, arguments, repeated self-blame, you are reinforcing war rhythm. If you give yourself a few quiet minutes, a few slow breaths, a few gentle thoughts, not fake positivity, just acknowledging, I've done my best today. The rest is for tomorrow. You are sowing seeds for peaceful rhythm. Imagine your heart as a grandchild you are teaching to sleep. If before bed you hold them, speak softly, turn down the lights, quiet the house, they will learn that this hour is safe. They can close their eyes. If instead you blast the TV, tell scary stories, push them to worry about tomorrow's tasks, they will learn that night is a time for vigilance. Your heart is no different, except that this grandchild has been with you for decades and has rarely been tucked in gently. At ages 45-90, understanding HRV is not so you obsess over the numbers on a smartwatch, but so you can gently recognize flexibility is strength, not weakness. A heart that is a little orderly, chaotic, is a wise heart. It knows how to listen to the breath, knows how to slow when you sit and watch the sunset, knows how to quicken when you hold your grandchild, knows how to settle when you lie down. And the quiet night is when you give it the chance to practice that. You don't need to turn your bedroom into a laboratory. Just a few very soft principles. Reduce harsh light in the last hour. Don't read the news you already know will make you angry or afraid right before bed. Don't drag every old failure into a trial at 11 p.m. Instead, offer your brain and heart a different kind of input. A slow story, a gentle piece of music, a few deep breaths. You are building a night school where the heart relearns the peaceful rhythm. Self-development at this stage is no longer about chasing a long list of goals. It is the subtle art of choosing rhythm. Anyone over 45 can ask themselves, what kind of world am I training my heart for? If the answer is a world that is always dangerous, always lacking, always demanding, I prove something, then the body will mirror that. In war rhythm. But if you, with all the experience you already have, are brave enough to say, no, my world, at least in this room, in this hour, is allowed to be safe, then little by little, heart, brain, and breath will listen. This is not about stopping worry. Worry is a very human part of this age. Worry about health, test results, a partner, a teenage grandchild, retirement savings. But between letting worry dictate your heart's rhythm all night and acknowledging it, then setting it on a shelf, deciding this will be handled tomorrow, with a rested brain you still have a choice. That choice is small, but repeated every night, it becomes a kind of heart training, from chronic war rhythm to chosen peaceful rhythm. And perhaps in that very choice, you are sending yourself a self-development message deeper than any flashy slogan, that you are no longer living on pushed-around reflex, but as someone with enough experience to consciously choose an inner rhythm, even when you cannot control everything outside. Tonight, before sleep, if you try just one very small thing, place your hand on your chest, listen to a few beats, breathe slowly, say one gentle sentence to yourself, then turn down the useless noise. Please see that not just as a sleep hack, but as a character exercise. You are training yourself to become someone who carries peaceful rhythm into the rest of life. Someone who can feel, who can ache, who can worry, but does not let the heart stay locked forever in ready to go to war. And when you close your eyes and let the night take you, let your heart be allowed to be orderly chaotic, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes quiet, sometimes stirring, but always within the embrace of a new yet simple trust that you can choose to train your own nervous system with small, respectful choices each evening. The rest leave to the night, to the deep cycles, to the silent intelligence in your body doing its part. If tomorrow morning you feel even half a step lighter, that is already a sign the heart has begun to understand the message. From now on, we prioritize peaceful rhythm. If each evening we are quietly training the heart into peaceful rhythm or war rhythm, then the next very natural question is, do the things I think and say to myself before I close my eyes leave biological traces on my tomorrow? And if they do, have we ever treated that end-of-day moment as a serious ritual, instead of letting it slip away in tired habit? You are hearing these words on an evening probably not so different from many others in your life. Maybe you've had dinner, done the dishes, turned off some lights, checked the doors, taken your medication if needed. You lean back onto your familiar bed. The mattress slightly giving, the blanket slightly heavy, the ceiling that has seen you through many seasons. Somewhere in the house might be the sound of the fridge, the heater or AC, or distant traffic. Everything so ordinary, it seems nothing important is happening anymore. But exactly then, your brain is recording the final frames of the day. And what people rarely tell you is, that final frame is given priority to be printed and sent down into the body as an emotional summary for tomorrow. Sleep and emotion research show that the dominant feeling right before sleep, even just in the last few minutes, can affect how the brain processes memories overnight, how stress hormones rise and fall, and, in turn, your cardiovascular state, blood pressure, and mood upon waking. If you fall asleep in a wave of anger, resentment, harsh self-blame, or amplified anxiety, the brain tends to file those folders in the priority queue. They are more likely to be replayed in dreams, strengthened in neural connections, and you wake feeling as if the heaviness hasn't gone at all, maybe even sticks tighter. Conversely, if before sleep, despite a hard day, you deliberately choose a kind sentence for yourself, a small moment of gratitude, a softer view of yourself, the brain has a different anchor for processing memory. It cannot erase pain or paint everything pink, but it reframes. I made it through today. I am still here. I allow myself to rest. That frame is carried into the night's cleanup, softening some of the warning signals that would otherwise keep the heart on alert. Try recalling some night in your life, maybe long ago, when you went to bed after a fight, or after watching heavy news, or after looping. I'm so stupid, I'm ruined. Nothing can be saved anymore. The next morning, even if nothing external got worse, your body felt as if it had run a long stretch. The heart not truly calm, head tight, breakfast tasteless, even sunlight struggling to lift your mood. That isn't just psychological, it's a biological loop. Last night you sent heart and brain a communique soaked in tension. Through the night, the nervous system had to operate under that directive. In the morning, it returns results aligned with what was signed right before sleep. Now, compare that to those rare nights, maybe after visiting your grandchild, after a heartfelt talk with someone close, after telling yourself, enough for today, ill rest, now you lay down feeling lighter. Problems weren't erased, but there was a temporary acceptance inside. The next morning, though tasks remain, you have a bit more strength, a bit more generosity. Your heartbeat is not jerking, the sunrise feels gentler. That too is biology. Last night you laid an emotional foundation of a different tone, and the body did the rest. At 45, 60, 80, your memory is not only fuller, but heavier. People who are gone, chances missed, decisions you cannot redo, words you wish you hadn't said, if onlys lodged deep. Add to that very real worries about health, finances, loneliness, a world changing too fast. No one can demand you go to bed with an empty head, but precisely because life is this dense, those few minutes at the end become even more important. Like the final editor allowed to write the last sentence of a very long chapter. That last sentence doesn't change the content, but it decides whether the chapter closes in total bitterness or with a deeper, kinder pause. A kind sentence to yourself is not an empty slogan, especially for your generation raised on endurance, on others matter more than me, on I must push, I must not be weak. Speaking gently to yourself can be far harder than speaking harshly, but if we see it as a soft vaccine against stress, perhaps it feels worth trying seriously, at least for 30 nights. Picture it concretely. Tonight, before closing your eyes, instead of letting thoughts run on autopilot, you pause for one beat. Maybe you're lying on your side, fingers touching the sheet's edge, hearing your partner's breath or only your own. You choose one sentence, no need for fancy words. Today, I did enough for what I could. Or, I allow myself to rest. Or, I'll think more tomorrow. Tonight is for sleep. It may feel awkward at first, like something weak. But remember, for decades, you have never stopped being strict with yourself. If you don't start learning gentleness now, then when, as that sentence is repeated more regularly, the brain starts to register, our end-of-day frame is shifting from unfinished tension to temporary acceptance and rest. Neurotransmitters and hormones tied to stress get a chance to drop at the right time, instead of being held high right up to bedtime. The heart has the chance to soften a notch. Blood pressure can ease. The deep sleep cycles which you need more than ever at this age have a doorway to enter. This doesn't make you immune to sorrow or illness like a vaccine against a single virus, but it raises your nervous system's threshold against life's collisions, like a thin coat that keeps you from freezing at the first cold wind. One night of a kind sentence may not change much. 10 nights, 20, 30. You are gently reprogramming how your body responds to difficulty. Less panic, less self-beating, fewer decisions made in exhaustion. More importantly, you're changing the tone of your memory. If every day ends in self-criticism, your memory of yourself will, over time, be dyed in a very harsh color. I am always lacking, always wrong. If every day, however small, ends with an acknowledgement, I have limits, but I am trying, your memory of yourself becomes gradually more fair. At 70, 80, the greatest gift you can give yourself is not erasing all mistakes, that's impossible, but allowing your memory to look at you with kinder eyes. Those eyes, repeated over many nights, mark your heartbeat. Fewer jolts of shame, fewer pounding rushes of useless, more stretches of steady rhythm from the sense, I am still someone worthy of care. So the question, have I ever tried this seriously, is not an accusation, but an invitation. In life, you've tried many things seriously, working without rest, sacrificing for family, enduring illness, moving to new places, learning new languages, standing after loss. But perhaps you've never tried seriously to speak kindly to yourself each night. Never treated it as discipline, like taking meds on time, like checking your blood pressure. Never considered that one gentle sentence as a form of soft medical intervention, part of a strategy to protect heart and brain. Self-development at this age is no longer about doing more, reading more, upgrading your version like an ad. It is refinement, keeping what nourishes you, letting go of inner voices that kill you. The final moment of the day is where you can practice this most clearly. No one sees, no one scores, but the body records. You can start with a simple ritual. Before turning off the light, recall one small thing from the day that keeps you from hating yourself. Just one. You called to check on someone. You managed a few extra steps. You spoke softer in a conversation that could have turned loud. You were patient with pain. If nothing comes, remember simply, I made it through another day. For a heart that has beaten billions of times for you, that is an achievement. Then whisper one sentence, any sentence. As long as it is not an attack, it can be utterly ordinary, not poetic. Enough. Sleep now. Well, sort it tomorrow. Making it this far is already good. Let that be the last line of the day, instead of letting the phone, the news, or the critical voice in your head steal that position. And when you close your eyes, notice your mind may still reflexively pull up old thoughts. Don't panic. Don't scold yourself. Why am I still thinking this? See the kind sentence as a soft vaccine, not something that prevents all anxiety viruses, but something that gives your system a memory of another response. Gentler, slower. You repeat the sentence once more. Inhale, exhale. That is enough for tonight. Finally, before this voice fades into the night around you, here is one question to carry with you. No need to answer aloud. If for the next year Each night before sleep, you faithfully give yourself 10 or 20 seconds to choose one gentle memory and one kind sentence. How different might your morning heartbeat and your view of the life you've lived become, if that could truly change, and both science and the heart suggest it can. Then perhaps, after so many years doing great things for others, this is the time to try one quiet, great thing for yourself. If each night you can choose a kind sentence as a soft vaccine for tomorrow, then there is another, quieter but no less important question. In the larger picture, where the universe runs on timescales of billions of years, does the rushed life we once called normal really make sense for a body already halfway through its journey? Picture this. Out there, beyond the bedroom window's night sky, galaxies are turning, star clusters drifting. The light from some stars you see tonight began its journey before you were born. The universe moves at a slowness impossible to measure by human schedules. Nothing in it is in a hurry. A star takes millions to billions of years to form, live, and fade. A galaxy needs longer than human history to slightly change its shape. Against that backdrop, our 70 or 80 years are a single, shallow breath. Yet, paradoxically, within that brief breath, we have spent many years living as if we must catch everything. You can recall the times you raced against the clock, against debt, against expectations, against standards others set for you, against the fear that if I slow down, I'll fall behind. We've known overtime shifts, rushed meals, chopped up sleep, impulsive decisions. The automatic "I'll handle it" spoken before we even check if our body can. The body, unlike galaxies, is not designed to endure such prolonged acceleration without paying. The heart must beat faster when we push too hard. The nervous system must stay on guard when we never offer its safety signals. Stress hormones must pour out when we keep telling ourselves not enough, not done, not safe. The costs may not show that same year, but they quietly stack. Rising blood pressure, trickier blood sugar, broken sleep, tired memory, stiff muscles, darker moods. By 45, 60, 70, the body starts sending clearer signals. The steps slow a little. Stairs make the heart speak. One bad night bleeds into 2 or 3 sluggish days. One rushed decision exhausts us longer. We often look at these with reluctance. Him old, him weak. But in the universe's unhurried context, we could read them differently. Not as sentences, but invitations to adjust rhythm. The universe doesn't rush a star to burn brighter than it can bear. No one orders a galaxy to spin faster to keep up with its neighbors. Only we have driven ourselves like that for years. So, in mid and late life, the question becomes clear and gentle. Wouldn't it be wiser to choose sustainable rhythms, a steadier sleep, a slower but surer step, fewer decisions but deeper ones? Steady sleep is a concrete example, not perfection, but a roughly stable window and a small ritual repeated. This is how we tell the body, I'm no longer using you as an emergency compressor. From now on, we walk the long road together. For someone halfway through life, this is not a luxury. It is a late but valuable investment. A few years of steadier sleep can give you many more mornings of clarity, many more conversations without snapping, more chances to catch health issues early. Slow steps too. Young people are praised for moving fast. Those who've walked far have the privilege of choosing their pace. A slow walk around the block, standing a little longer at the window in the sun. A meal eaten without scrolling small things. But each time you are teaching the nervous system that not every moment is an emergency. The heart understands. The brain understands. Your beat and your thoughts begin to change. This is not the rhythm of giving up. It is the rhythm of knowing what truly deserves urgency and what does not, and fewer but deeper decisions. At 4590, you no longer need a multitude of trials. You need what is meaningful. Instead of accepting every demand just because you fear refusing, you can choose some roles to do well. A grandparent truly present, a friend who still listens, a citizen who still cares but doesn't let the news devour their mind, a patient who cooperates with doctors instead of fighting their body. Each decision that is fewer but deeper adjusts your life curve towards sustainability. Less scattered, less drained. Stress and aging science tell us the body ages faster under long, unbroken stress without recovery. We cannot control all external causes, but we can shape our inner pacing. The universe is unrushed. That's how it keeps orbits and planets balanced. If we live as if everything is urgent, how can we demand that balance? Some will say, if I slow down now, I'm afraid of being left behind, afraid of being useless. That fear is real, especially in a culture that worships speed and youth. But consider another angle. In a house where everyone is rushing and frantic, who anchors? In a family where every generation scrolls late and sleeps badly, who shows that another rhythm is possible? You might be that person, not because you must, but because you've lived enough to see that constant running is not the answer. The universe doesn't need you to go faster. It doesn't hand out points for 3 extra news articles before bed. Your heart, brain, immune system do. They grade you by handing back each morning either heaviness or lightness, defensiveness or openness, enough energy to love a bit more or just enough to shield. At this stage, self-development can be redefined, not climbing another social rung, but adjusting how you treat your inner life. To develop is to realize you can choose rhythm for the first time after decades of being dragged by outer beats. It is daring to prioritize sleep once sacrificed to work, daring to say no to requests that overrun heart and mind, daring to leave one morning empty to sit quietly with your coffee and the feeling I am still here, instead of cramming it with noise because you are scared of silence. The universe's rhythm teaches that what lasts is not what shouts loudest, but what keeps its own tempo amid chaos. In your home, in your body, you can start playing that role. No announcement needed, just each night before sleep. Not rushing to break your rhythm for unworthy things. Each morning, not hurling yourself into the information storm so hard you forget to hear your own heartbeat. Then, in a world that will keep speeding up, your body past halfway can become living proof of something simple younger people rarely believe. That slowing down in the right way doesn't make you smaller, it makes you deeper. That 60, 70, 80 are not just lands of decline, but perhaps the rare time when you finally have enough data to choose a life pace that fits your true nature instead of external pressure. Before closing tonight, you might gently ask, if from tomorrow on, I see my life as a long curve that needs endurance, not glare, what one small thing in my rhythm would I change? Maybe the answer is only, go to bed 20 minutes earlier. Stop watching news at 11 p.m. Walk slowly and look at the sky. Say enough to one thing I no longer wish to carry. These sound tiny, but on a long curve, they are quiet turning points. The universe will not notice your changes, but your heart will. Your brain will. Those who love you, even without naming it, will feel it. And one day, sitting in a quiet afternoon looking back, you may realize the greatest lesson was not do more, but live truer to the natural rhythm. So the rest of life is not a desperate sprint, but a journey slow enough to see the beauty of your own story. If earlier we discovered that the universe is in no hurry and a body halfway through life has the right to choose a sustainable pace instead of a sprint, then the natural next question is, tonight, this very night, in the concrete room where you lie, what small but truly meaningful thing can we do to align our heartbeat with that vast breathing? Not tomorrow, not when I'm free, but in the next few minutes, before you fall asleep. Now, allow yourself to set aside the big words galaxies, solar storms, brainwaves, hormones. Zoom in to where it all meets. Your bed, your body, the heart that has been beating without pause since the moment you were born. Outside the window, night has settled over the street, town, or city where you live. Traffic may be thinning, warm or cool light brushes the curtains. Inside, familiar objects are quiet. The worn chair, the small table, the bedside lamp, the slippers, the picture frame, the clock. Together they form your own small universe, smaller than the sky, but the place where your heartbeat and breath actually have sovereignty. If the cosmic breath is made of large cycles we cannot alter, then each evening is the hyphen joining that vastness and the small rhythm inside our chest. We cannot ask the sun to rise later to fit our meeting. We cannot tell the earth to stop turning so we get 2 more hours of work, but we can decide. Before sleep, I turn off this extra screen. I take one slower breath. I say one sentence to myself that no longer forces my heart to brace. These small decisions are where a tiny human participates in the great music without breaking it. At 45, 60, 80, you are probably tired of calls to transform your life, reinvent yourself, start over that feel exhausting and far away. You don't need another slogan. Your body doesn't need a noisy revolution. It only needs to be gently calibrated by very small rituals, repeated to send the nervous system one consistent message. From now on, we choose peaceful rhythm. The rest, science will quietly support. Softer heart, steadier blood pressure, deeper sleep, memory preserved longer, moods less sharp-edged. So tonight, what ritual could you choose as a small invitation to your heart in a vast universe? You might start with breathing, the closest bridge. You don't need complex counting. Just lie still, place one hand on your chest or belly. Inhale very softly through your nose, enough to feel the air sink a little deeper. Then exhale slower than you inhaled, as if breathing out fragments of the day. A word that upset you, a piece of news that worried you, a thought that kept looping. Just a few rounds, without forcing, without turning it into a test. Think of it as a nod to your body. I know today was tiring. Thank you. Now rest. It's a simple ritual, but stronger than you think. It tells the nervous system there are no predators in the corners, no car rushing at you, no meeting waiting. It opens the door for sleep. Or you might choose a ritual of thought, not forced positive thinking that is fake and often backfires, but choosing an intentional closing frame for the day. For instance, instead of letting "I did nothing worthwhile" be the last line in your mind, you try, "Today wasn't perfect, but I did what I could with what I had. That's enough for today." Or, "I'm still here, still breathing, still with a chance to fix a few things tomorrow." That's all. Not denying hardship, but not giving the merciless voice absolute control over the ending. For many in your generation, this sounds strange, because you've held yourself up with hard words all your life. But at this part of the road, You need a different kind of strength. The strength of someone who faces reality without torturing themselves. A kind sentence before sleep does not weaken you. It returns a minimal sense of safety, so the nervous system can carry out its repairs at night. Your ritual might also be a very small act of gratitude. No need for thick journals. No need to list 10 things. Just before closing your eyes, quietly choose one image from the day that doesn't weigh your heart down. Your grandchild's laugh, a stranger letting you merge in traffic, your back hurting less than yesterday, a hot cup of tea, a call you bravely made. Hold that image for a few breaths. Let it be the final frame of today's film. Doing this doesn't pretend hardships don't exist. It simply refuses to grant them the privilege of owning the last screen. Biologically, these little rituals share one mechanism. They reduce stress signals, increase the chance for the parasympathetic system to work. Let the heart slow. Let the brain enter full, deep sleep and dream cycles. Spiritually, they reaffirm that you are not just a victim dragged by history, illness, headlines. You still have agency, at least in those quiet minutes before sleep. At 45:90, the feeling I still can choose is precious medicine. Some may ask, is that enough? Life is complicated. No one says it solves everything. But think of the cycles we've discussed. Each night is one loop. If you skew one, nothing dramatic. If you adjust 30, 60, 365 loops, the trajectory of the whole system changes, just a few degrees off, and a spacecraft ends somewhere entirely different. Each little ritual tonight is a few degrees of correction for the years ahead, and one more often forgotten thing. These gentle rituals are not only good for you, they are an invisible gift to those who live with you. An elder who goes to bed less tense, less bitter, wakes a bit gentler, listens a bit more, is a tremendous comfort to a family. You may not realize it, but how you sleep, how you end a day, sets an emotional climate in the home. By resetting your rhythm tonight, you help reset that climate. So when we say a small invitation to the heart in a vast universe, it is not just a pretty image. It is a very practical proposal. Try seeing evening not as leftover time, but as a closed-door meeting between you and your nervous system. In that meeting, you have only a few minutes to issue instructions. Keep the alarm on, treat everything as threat, or reduce level. Prioritize recovery. We want the years ahead to be worth living. You've spent many years being serious about responsibilities, contracts, work hours, bills, other people. The question now is, are you willing to be serious about this very gentle invitation to yourself? Choose one small ritual, keep it for at least 30 nights as a commitment. I will not end my day by firing the last shot at myself. I will end it with one gesture that lowers the rhythm. Maybe you choose breath. Maybe you choose a sentence. Maybe a memory of gratitude. Maybe all three in a minute. The form doesn't matter. The attitude does. Treating that moment as part of how you live, not an afterthought. When it becomes habit, you'll notice small changes. Fewer white nights. Fewer awakenings with a lump in your chest. More mornings where you still feel like me, not just a drained shell. And perhaps one night, lying still, breathing evenly, letting the day slip off your shoulders, you'll suddenly feel closer to the sky outside. Not in a vague, mystical way, but in a simple sense. That whole universe is turning at its rhythm. I can't control it, but I can choose not to fight the natural rhythm in my own body anymore. I can let my heart beat in a gentler tempo, resting on the wide, slow breath of the cosmos. Before we close tonight's story, I want to leave you with a question that needs no spoken answer, only to be carried into sleep. If from this night on, every evening before you close your eyes, you truly choose one very small ritual to reset your heart's rhythm, how different will the person you wake up as in a year be? And will you grant yourself, after all these years lived for others, the right to discover that gentle difference? You can close your eyes now and let your thoughts dissolve like mist. If your mind still wants to wander, let it continue the journey to the next video, where we go deeper into the mysteries of the soul. If your body is tired, then let this sound lull you into sleep. No need to try. Just breathe, and remember everything you are searching for is already resting quietly within yourself.